Father, it's difficult in some ways to teach on a subject like the book of Isaiah. One just gets to the 6th chapter, if you can get to the 6th chapter, and there you read the vision of God, and Isaiah is seeing you high and lifted up, with the whole train of your robe filling the temple. You hear the angels singing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. The whole earth is filled with His glory." Any book that has that kind of language in it is difficult to come near. Any book that has that elevated a view of God is difficult to really even begin to touch the hem of the garment. And so, Father, we'll definitely need your Spirit this evening. Certainly for the poor speaker who dares to speak about this book, but also for those who want to learn and listen about the deep treasures that are buried here. Treasures that you did not hide from those who wish to find them. And so we pray for the ears that truly hear, the eyes that truly see, the mind that truly comprehends. For Father, we want to know your word, have it become a part of us so that it is the fiber of our decisions and the fiber of our thoughts. And we ask this in the name of Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen. Well, this is a true pleasure for me to jump into this book. I did want to just back up for a moment and kind of phrase something here. I had a conversation with some folks who were taking the class, and they're very excited to get all this information, but they were quite candid in their confession that they would probably not be able to recite it over again if asked to do so in a test or in a conversation at the coffee shop. And I assured them that that was not the goal of the class. I understand that this is not, easy information to retain, and I think the reason why I go to some of the detail that I go to is so that it gives all of us a sense of confidence that somebody's thought about this stuff before, that there are reference points out there, and if you do come across a question or a concern in the marketplace or even in your own reflection, there's a place to begin, a place to go back to the notes, a couple references on the internet, and you can start looking up technology. So it's more kind of a general orientation to the field. No one expects anyone to be a biblical expert after this class. For that, you would need a biblical expert to teach it, and I'm subbing for one because that's what I do. But you understand that none of us here are professionals at this. I'm just trying to get us oriented to the field so that if we come into contact with those questions, we can have a place to begin. So we can breathe a sigh of relief. The test will be really easy, and you don't have to worry about that. So with that in mind, we're going to continue our reflection on the Old Testament, and I'm trying to ask the question, who wrote our Bible? Precisely because out there in the critical world, that question is being asked. And the answers that you read in the books that you pull off the shelves or that you see on PBS or wherever else you watch these stories, they're typically not the traditional answers that you're used to in our evangelical circles. And so I just wanted to, with a sense of transparency and honesty, address those questions so that we have some handle about what's going on. And so as part of that, we looked last week at the Pentateuch and the challenges to Moses. Did he write the Pentateuch? And I think we were able to present some tools, at least some structures for you to say, we have as folks who believe in the traditional view that Moses did in fact is the primary author and organizer of those texts, we have a solid logical, historical ground to stand on. Now I would want to do the same thing this week with regard to the book of Isaiah. It's been quite a pleasure for me, actually, to dig back into this book. Sometimes people ask me, where do you begin in terms of the theology of the Bible? And I say, if you're serious about really getting a handle of the whole story of Scripture, one way to do it is to do what we're doing as a church, is read the Bibles through from cover to cover and do it in a chronological way so that you can kind of see the story. As I said, sometimes I get concerned that our Bible study methodologies focus so much on the trees we don't see the forest. And it's important to me that we do kind of get a view of the story before we try to analyze the trees that make up the story. So one way to do it is the way we're doing it as a church. If you want to go to the next level, though, and say, well, sometimes in reading through that whole story, I'm not really sure what the important things are and how to organize things topically, or what are the big ideas, what are the big concepts that we have to grasp. And for that, I usually recommend in the Old Testament that you look at 3 books and really analyze those and turn those over. And I think interestingly enough, they're from the 3 different sections of the Old Testament. So in the Pentateuch, I definitely think we need to read Deuteronomy. I mean, that is the theology of the Pentateuch explained to us in a more clear way, I feel, and a more robust way. In the prophets, I would argue that Isaiah is a must-read. So Deuteronomy, Isaiah, and then in the writings, I would point to Psalms. So in the Pentateuch, you have the establishment of God's purposes for the world as revealed through the people of God that He calls through Abraham. In the prophets, and especially in Isaiah, you have the story of how this continues through this people that He called together to return to the land. And what happens when that elevates to the level of a kingdom, of a nation, of a people of God that covenant together to be a people like other peoples? How does that work out? And that's the story of Isaiah, as we're going to see tonight. And in the Psalter, what I love about the Psalter is I often tell people, kind of in one-word phrase, the Psalter is the story of the journey from lament to praise through prayer. It's the fact that this world out there doesn't line up with the promises of God, and we live in that world. We have all these promises of God laid out to us as the people of God, but the world in which we live, somehow that's not realized. So we're in a place of pain and suffering and lamenting, but all through the Scriptures, we feel this exhortation to praise. So how do you go from the place of lament to praise? And I believe that the Psalter teaches us it's through prayer. And so it's this idea of worship. So here's this tremendous story of God outlined in the Pentateuch, then developed in Isaiah, and in worship, in the book of Psalms, you learn, well, how do I cope with this? How do I deal with this? How do I live in that context of a world where God promises everything and yet it doesn't seem to be evident to me? How do I live in that tension? And I think the practical answer is worship, and it's spelled out in the book of the Psalms. Anyway, so that's why those 3 books, I think, are critical for the Old Testament. And the New Testament, I would point to the Gospel of John and the Gospel and the Epistle of Romans. Those are the deep theological kind of reflections. Not that there isn't theology through the whole rest of the Bible, for that matter, but those are kind of the key points. So my feeling is if you can get a hold of those 5 books, you have at least in main the major theological themes of the Bible. So those of you who are ambitious and intellectual in your orientation, you say, I really want to get a handle on this. Try it as I've done this. You just read those 5 books straight through and see if it doesn't really make you step back and take a really deep breath about the majesty and grandeur of the story of Scripture. So having said that, we're dealing with Isaiah here, and I'll tell you, as I prepared the class today, it was very difficult for me to focus on critical issues when I wanted to get lost in the theology of the story. It was a wonderful story, and so much so that I think I do a little theology blog on the side, and I'm just about done with Zechariah in that little blog. And I think the next thing I'm going to do as a result of this class is jump into Isaiah, which I propose to finish somewhere in 2021 or something. Who knows when I'll get through that. It took me forever to get through Zechariah. But, so thank you for, you didn't know you did this, but you helped me decide the next series of reflections. So that'll take place. Okay, let me just, I'm going on and on about the significance of Isaiah, but just so you know, it isn't just me. One of the most well-known Old Testament scholars, not evangelical, of course, but still well known out there in the world. And even though I kind of picked him because even outside of the evangelical world, the centrality of Isaiah is recognized. A well-known scholar by the name of Von Rad, I quoted him here in the opening notes here, that the preaching of Isaiah represents the theological high watermark of the whole Old Testament. Not one of the other prophets approaches Isaiah in the intellectual vigor or more particularly in the magnificent sweep of his ideas. So there's somebody who's not even evangelical looking through Isaiah saying, this is a magisterial book. It's core to the understanding of the Old Testament. All right, so let's crack the binding then, and let's get in and reflect on some of the critical challenges and how we walk through them in our text. Let me start with the man himself, what we know about Isaiah. The text has some biographical clues to who he might be. Several times throughout the book, Isaiah is mentioned. Isaiah, the son of Amos, is referenced several times. So we have a kind of a lineage set there. In Jewish tradition, there seems to be this belief that he was from a royal line of some sort. All his references to Jerusalem throughout the text may indicate he had some access to the kings, maybe had some sort of tie to the royal family. It's possible, given his intimate knowledge and familiarity in the book with Jerusalem and the kings there. There are some family details about Isaiah as you read through it. And if we weren't in the middle of Read the Bible for Life, I'd challenge you to read through those 66 chapters in one sweep. I did it this week. It's just a great, here's a clue. Turn off the TV, and you can actually get that done. It's an amazing experience. You read a whole book at one time. It's an amazing thing. There are some clues there in the Scripture about who he was. This passage comes into place from time to time. In Isaiah 8:3, his wife is referred to as the prophetess. It's the feminine word for prophet. And so it's translated in English as prophetess. Perhaps it just means the wife of a prophet. We don't have any evidence that his wife ever spoke words of prophecy, but it's just an interesting terminology that we don't see elsewhere in the Scriptures. We know two of his sons because they're part of the story. They have very meaningful names, and they're spelled out in Isaiah 7 and again in this same passage in Isaiah 8. I won't embarrass myself by trying to pronounce them. That'll be something for you to do at home. But they have interesting names, and they come at critical junctions to echo a point in Isaiah's theology. One of the most famous passages in Isaiah come in Isaiah chapter 6, where he has the call. And we're going to talk a little bit about the historical context, and that'll kind of help us see why this call was so critical. But it is a call story in Isaiah chapter 6, in which Isaiah sees this image of God, high and lifted up. My own feeling, it is meant to be a continuation of Moses' experience on the mountain, all those places where God connects with his select prophets in a very special way. And Isaiah has this experience, and he is given a personal encounter with God which will inform his mission and his ministry. He will have a very difficult mission that will require a lot of sacrifice on one place, and he will have to have this vision and high and magisterial view of God if he's ever going to be able to carry it out. I mean, at one point, God tells him to walk around naked through the place as an example of how the exiles are going to happen. You got to have a vision of God before you take off your clothes and walk out there as a message, right? I mean, you got to really know that this is God talking to you. So it was a very dramatic calling that you see, and it's worthy of a whole series of sermons in itself, just the image of God that you see in Isaiah chapter 6. We don't have any historical details in the text itself about the death of Isaiah. We do know that he encounters difficulty under the King Manasseh, a less favorable king in Judah. Traditions among the rabbis are that he was killed under King Manasseh. One tradition said he was sawn in half for his crimes against the king. Others see him hiding out in a cave where he is found and then sawn in half. Who knows about the accuracy of that tradition? Several years ago, I was called on to go and represent Bethany when one of our pastors went and took another church down in Connecticut. And I went down there, and he spoke on Isaiah. So I was kind enough at the end. They were kind enough at the end to ask me to do the final prayer. And in that prayer, I reflected on Isaiah, and I said, now, Isaiah of the Old Testament was called to a people and was sawn in half as a result of following that calling. I pray better fortune for our pastor coming to you. And so I heard him from the back row say amen. So that's how that can be used in a sermon someday. But anyway, fascinating story. We have some details. Now, I kind of go through these because this is precisely the person that is being challenged or critiqued as to whether, in fact, he wrote the whole book or just a portion of it. And so let's dig into why that might be. Part of understanding why there would be a critique, and I thought about how to talk about this with you, and it occurs to me that in order for you to understand why there's such tension about who wrote this book, you kind of have to have a view of the historical setting. So let me just point out, we are now in what's known as the period called the Divided Kingdom. Some of you that know some of your history will know that when King Saul is the first king of Israel, he unites the tribes of Israel into one kingdom. And then we have only 3 kings that really are able to reign for any time as over a united kingdom where all those tribes are combined. Saul, David, and David's son Solomon. Really, it's from about the Saul, they usually put around 1050, and Solomon's death is around 930. So you're just a little over 100 years as a united kingdom. So that experiment worked out quite well, don't you think? And already it gets divided into 2. And so we're well into this story of the divided kingdom, some 200 years into the story of the divided kingdom before Isaiah comes to his prophecies. Now, we're at a particular time during this expanded kingdom where Assyria as a nation is beginning to expand its influence. It's growing in its power. While that's happening, and there's some degree of peace going on as Assyria begins to gradually grow, the northern neighbors of the southern kingdoms, so the divided kingdoms, you have the northern kingdom, which is known as Israel, and the southern kingdom, which is known as Judah. It's a little confusing because sometimes you use the word Israel to refer to the whole people of God, and other times that same word, Israel, is referred just to the northern kingdom. So I'll try to be consistent when I speak here, but Israel, in this case, on this slide, we're talking about the northern kingdom. And it's in league with Damascus, which is what we know today as Syria. So those 2 countries, if you will, are kind of in league trying to build a power structure so that they can resist what they see to be the growing Assyrian armies and expand in that way. So what they're doing is they're putting pressure on Judah, the southern kingdom, to join this league and resist and push back against Assyria. So that's the context, and as it stands as Isaiah comes on the scene. And just to kind of give you a little bit of a view, I realize this map is sideways from what you're used to seeing, but to give you a visual of what we're talking about there, and then all those numbers on the map I kind of spell out below. Basically what they're telling you is this King Pekah of the northern kingdom and Rezin of Damascus and Syria, so they're kind of to the left of your diagram, kind of the center left. Those are the folks that are are coming together, trying to expand south, expand their criteria, or expand their territory. And it's precisely at this point where God sends Isaiah into the story to say, no, don't join with them. Their plan is doomed. Do not join with them. Now, the king, it's the year that King Uzziah dies. He's followed by Ahaz, and in both cases, God's word to the people is resist, but King Ahaz will not listen. And we come at a critical point then of what is Judah going to do about this growing power in the north, the link between Israel, their former brothers, if you will, or their brothers who were formerly part of their kingdom, and this union with Syria. So that's the context. Let me kind of lay it out another way so you see a timeline. Those of you that are date people, I wanted to lay it out this way. The year that King Uzziah died, that famous first verse from Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1, we're talking about 740 BC. That's the calling of Isaiah, and his death is somewhere around 685 BC is what we're thinking. So what I've done for you is on the left-hand side of your screen is the kings of Judah ranged out by date. And again, the first one, Uzziah, dying in 740. And then you have the other kings. You'll notice there's some date overlap. We like in our history, it'd be nice and clean, and one dies, and the next one takes over, and one dies, and the next. Those aren't typographical errors. We had a lot of co-regency going on during this period, as one king is king and king in name only, and somebody else is kind of ruling for him. So there's some overlap here in the dates. So Uzziah, and I said Ahaz was after that. Obviously, that's not correct. It's Jotham, and then Ahaz, and then Hezekiah, and then Manasseh. So the point here is that Isaiah has a wide swath of kings. There's a long period of his ministry going on here, some 65 years, something like that, where he is, 55 years, 60 years. He's a prophet in Israel. So he has a long history of serving in the southern kingdom in Judah. But he addresses this, and it's during a certain point, with a key transition point in Israel. We have two kings, notice, listed in the Israel and the northern kingdom. Why is that? Well, because the northern kingdom comes to an end. Why Isaiah is still a prophet. The northern kingdom is conquered by Assyria. Why Isaiah is there. So part of the story of Isaiah, as we're going to see, is don't join with the northern kingdom. Don't join with Syria, because I've already judged them. And if you join with them, guess what's going to happen to you? All right? And then on the right, just so if you're out there on the internet saying, well, who were the Assyrian emperors or conquerors that were around during Isaiah's time, I laid out those names for you. And again, in the interest of not embarrassing myself on the internet, I will not read them. I will allow you to imagine in your own minds the beautiful sounds of those words pronounced correctly. So let me what does that mean concretely? Again, all those dates won't be on the test, but these are kind of key dates that you want to keep in mind as you lay out the meaning of Isaiah, especially as we talk about critical challenges to Isaiah. 740, as we pointed out, is the date of his calling. It's the year that King Uzziah died. And 722 is a key date. You want to kind of fix this as one of those dates in your mind, kind of like 1492 when Columbus discovered America, only to find out he didn't really discover it. Somebody else found it already. But in any case, that core date, you want to keep, this is one of those dates that you want to remember. 722, that's when Israel falls to Assyria. All right, so that's a key date in this story, and we're going to see why in a moment. 685 is the date, the traditional date when we see Isaiah's death. Now, there's two other important dates that come along that you need to know about if we're going to understand the challenges to Isaiah. One is 586, and this is another one of those big dates you should always have in your head. That's the day that the southern kingdom falls to Babylon. And the captives are taken captive into Babylon. It becomes that period of captivity, Babylonian captivity, that spawns the Jewish tradition as we begin to know it. And then the other important date then is 538 BC, when the Medes, after they defeat the Medes and the Persians, when they defeat the Babylonians, they actually give permission to the Jewish folks to return from Babylonian captivity and set up the kingdom again in Palestine. So in those list of dates that I should know in Old Testament history, this 722, 586, 538, you should have those all in your head. And we're going to see why those dates are critical as we begin to work through Isaiah's prophecy, the meaning of his prophecy, and also why he's under attack in the modern critical world. The reason why I have asterisks on those last two dates is that, notice, they happen after Isaiah dies. This becomes a problem, because if you read through large sections of Isaiah's prophecy, you will see many of them have to do about what's going to happen in Babylon, what's going to happen in Palestine when they come back to Babylon. There are whole sections of Isaiah that deal with periods of time at which Isaiah was not alive. He is clearly predicting the future. And this is the challenge that modern criticism will begin to level. So let's be a little more clear about what we're saying there on the next slide. It kind of falls, if you read through Isaiah, it kind of falls into three sections naturally. And they line up with those three dates, those last couple dates that I was telling you about. In 1 to 39, it's mostly admonitions while the southern kingdom was still in Judah. And a lot of them have to do with this threat that says, listen, stay away from this union with Syria and the northern kingdom of Israel, because I've already judged them. They're dead. And it's, do not be afraid of Assyria. Assyria is not going to touch you. And so the whole first 39 chapters is this warning to the southern kingdom of Judah. Do not be tempted. Do not give up hope in your God. Do not fall in with them, because here's what's going to happen. If you listen and go down that path, I'll destroy you too. But if you don't and you respond to me, then I will preserve you. And so that's kind of the tension that goes on there, and that's the ministry of Isaiah. He's trying to get this southern kingdom of Judah, this last hope of the kingdom of God, to stay faithful to the original covenant of God. And so Isaiah's mission is preach to this southern kingdom. They have one last shot to repent and align themselves back with the covenant that I gave to them. And so the plea goes out, and under the ministry of Hezekiah, because Hezekiah leads them back to a ministry of faithfulness, God actually listens to the prayer and delivers them from the fall. And so he's as Hezekiah comes forward, and you see from the dates here, if I go back here for a moment, 728 to 686, it's during that reign, 722, that Israel's conquered. So Hezekiah is a fascinating study, which I don't have time to go into tonight, but it is the fact that he led the people of God in faithful worship that allowed them to avoid the fall. So he responded well to Isaiah's message. However, Isaiah foresees, if you will, that that's going to be short-lived and that the rebellion will continue. Kind of like at the end of Moses' life, and now that you're reading through the Pentateuch in this thing, it's kind of like at the end of Moses' life where he says, okay, great, you're going to get into the kingdom, but let me tell you, after you get there and you fall away, this is what's going to happen to you. It's not like if you fall away. The word is kind of, okay, you're going to get there and you're going to mess up, and let me tell you what's going to happen. This is kind of the thing. Isaiah is saying to the southern kingdom, look, here's what's going to happen. If you listen to me, I will be faithful. I will save you. I will rescue. And just to show that I mean what I say, did you just not watch how I kept you from the Assyrian army? See, you had no clue. How did this little tiny kingdom keep you from being fallen under this Assyria? Let me remind you, it has to do with me, your God. All right, that's kind of the summary of Isaiah. But then Isaiah says, but now let me just tell you what's going to happen. You're going to fall away again. So chapters 40, 55, he's actually reflecting on the fact that they're going to fail and they're going to be in Babylon. And so long parts of the text are that they're going to fail when they're in Babylon. Who will rescue them? The lament that they're going to sing when they're there. The words of promise about his deliverance to them. There's long sections of that in 40 to 55. And then 56 to 66, the last 10 or 11 chapters are all about the perspective, the writing is as if they're back in the land. So you remember on our little date chart, 538 is when Cyrus, the Mede, the Persian, allows them to come back to Persia or to Palestine and set up their kingdom again. And so this last section is all about that. So kind of big, broad outline of the book of Isaiah as you're going to go home tonight, I'm sure, and stay up till 2 in the morning reading 66 chapters. This is the flow, all right? 1 to 39 admonitions while they're still in Judah. Then after the fall of Samaria and the realization that they're going to be taken captive as well because they're not going to sustain in their faithfulness, reflections while they're in exile in Babylon, and then the final section, perspectives after they return from exile and they're back in Palestine. Now, obviously, these last two sections involve predictions about the future. And this is where the rub begins to come with the modern critics. But just so you know what they're objecting to, let me just point out a couple very specific things that are said at the different sections. Isaiah, in 7:16, he predicts that Assyria will conquer Damascus and Israel. It hasn't happened yet. It wouldn't happen until 7:22. So you remember the king Uzziah died, or 740-ish. That's when he begins his prophecy. In the next chapter, he's saying, look, don't do what these guys want you to do because Assyria is going to conquer them. And he's predicting it before it happens, all right? But he also says in chapter 8 then, but I'm going to spare Judah. So he's up front, in advance, he's saying, look, this is what's going to happen. If you skip all the way, and I just picked a few, there are dozens of these throughout the text. I just picked a few that were very, very key that would help you to see that part. Let me get back. I wrote in the notes here. Let me just make a comment here. I wanted to do this. The text I wrote here was from Isaiah chapter 7, verse 16 and 17. This prediction. That Assyria is going to take them. Look what he says. But before the boy knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid waste. That is the northern kingdom of Israel and Syria. The Lord will bring on you and on your people and on the house of your father a time like any other since Ephraim broke away from Judah, since the time of the divided kingdom. He will bring the king of Assyria. So here's this text that mentions Assyria specifically saying, look, they're going to fall. Now, those of you that are kind of a little knowledgeable about Isaiah will recognize here that just 2 verses earlier, the prophecy about you will have a son, a virgin will conceive and have a son. That's the prophetic, the New Testament there talks about that as that's a prophecy of Jesus. And what I wanted to just mention here, it is a prophecy about Jesus. The New Testament sees that. But it's a fulfillment that's a building on a fulfillment that also happened right in Isaiah's own time. So that promise of a son who will deliver is fulfilled, first of all, in Isaiah's time this way. Isaiah has a son, one of the sons I mentioned to you, and he says, listen, the text says, before he knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, that age. Before that happens, before he comes to that age, Assyria is going to take over. So if the prophecy comes around 740 and the fall happens in 722, you can figure out the age there. All right? So he says, listen, before he reaches that age, Assyria is going to come. So it's fulfilled, first of all, right in Isaiah chapter 7. But see, the New Testament takes that same passage and say, you know what, but it also prophesied something beyond that. And that's what you see a lot in the Old Testament prophecies. You see kind of these partial fulfillments and then future fulfillments. It's like the current fulfillment is a sign of something bigger to come. And that happens over and over and over again in prophecy. In fact, it's kind of the main point of prophecy. It's kind of as if God is saying, listen, I'm going to say something, and then I'm going to show you that I can do it. But what you got to get is I'm about to do something bigger, and you should take these little miracles that I'm doing now and realize that I can do bigger miracles. It's the same kind of thing that Jesus does when he's here and he's doing miracles in the gospel and the New Testament. He's walking around healing people. The point is not to prove that he could heal people. The point was, do you see how easy it is for me to heal people? Now listen to what I'm telling you. I have the answers. I have the kingdoms. I can tell you the difference, or I have the keys to heaven. You know, all those things that I'm saying, I have authority to speak these things, and these are proofs that I can do that. And that's kind of what's happening here in the Old Testament. These little fulfillments are promises of future and bigger fulfillments, and that's what happens here in Isaiah chapter 7. So I just wanted to pause for a moment and point that out. But here's one. If we jump further ahead, and this is the real kicker, in Isaiah 47 and some of these other texts, Isaiah's not even dead yet, and he's predicting that Babylon will take Judah captive. So at some point, Judah is going to fall. Now this prophecy probably is after Israel's already fallen. Assyria is still high and powerful. Babylon has not yet even been able to conquer Assyria, let alone threaten anybody else. And Isaiah's text is saying, you know what? Babylon is going to take Judah. That's like picking the dark horse before he even runs a race. And so, obviously, and this is hundreds of years before it happens. So, what's really going to take place here? And then another one, and this is the real kicker. If you look here in Isaiah 45, the last one, on your notes there, Isaiah 45, that spills onto the next page, twice in Isaiah, the name Cyrus is mentioned explicitly. This is what the Lord says to his anointed. By the word, that's the Hebrew for Messiah. What he says to his anointed, it's the same word. To Cyrus, the one anointed to do something. To Cyrus, whose right hand I take hold of to subdue nations before him and to strip kings of their armor, to open doors before him so that gates will not be shut. Now, see, this creates a problem for the modern critic. Cyrus is not yet a gleam in his father's eye. And Isaiah is predicting that a man by the name of Cyrus will come to the throne as the Lord's anointed. And this is Persia, let alone Babylon, who's not risen. This is the one after Babylon. And Isaiah is already predicting it this far out. Now, you might imagine that with that kind of predictive element, concrete predictive element in the book, it faces some modern critical challenges. Last week we introduced you to the whole critical movement. Just like in the case of Moses, there are some ancient examples of folks that questioned Moses' authorship. Few and far between. The vast majority of tradition accepted Moses as the author of the Pentateuch. Here in Isaiah, there are a couple examples of folks going back even to the second century that did that, questioned Isaiah's prophecy. And quite interestingly, this has to do with these clear predictive elements, hundreds of years in advance. The modern critic was not the first one to discover this is astounding stuff. For Isaiah to be looking forward this far and making explicit predictions about Babylonia and about Cyrus. These are amazing things. But from a modern perspective, it really was in this same genre of the 18th and 19th century, this Enlightenment, kind of post-Enlightenment movement, the age of rationalism, where all of a sudden there's this anti-supernatural bias where, there couldn't be this predictive element. There's just no way that these folks could foresee what would happen. And so let's just as a starting place, let's just assume that can't happen. So now it's like, let's go back to Isaiah, and assuming from a modern critical standpoint you can't prophesy the future, that you haven't been there, what are we left with? And so the scholars began to go to work. And just like they did in the Pentateuch, where they said, aha, look at all these different names for God, and look at the way they're used. Maybe we can see sources underneath here that really kind of were done at different times. That's what began to happen with the book of Isaiah. People began to say, wait a minute, if this isn't just one thing, then what really happened here? Well, in Isaiah, it wasn't so much the name of God's, but so much these historical progressions that maybe divide up the book. And so you began to talk about these two or three or more Isaiahs. It's really two or more Isaiahs. There's a little typo there. The tech crew's going to kill me. It's really two or more Isaiahs. And I won't bore you with all the German names because they're not on the test either, but you can go back and figure that out. It starts off in Germany and then kind of goes across the continent, and then we get it over here in America. So two or more Isaiahs, and they start to break down. The first stage is just to say 1 to 39 is one first Isaiah, and then 40 to 66 is second Isaiah. That was kind of the first stage of this critical movement. And the reason dividing it there, the surface reason, is, well, obviously, as we've just seen, 1 to 39 takes place while Isaiah is still alive. I mean, he's still there talking about an era of his own time where the northern kingdom is falling or has fallen, but yet the southern kingdom is still together. It's still in Judah. It hasn't been taken captive. So it kind of makes sense for Isaiah to have written that. But the second part, from 40 on, clearly there's a transition in perspective to this time of Babylon. So let's just assume that nobody could, in the modern critical mind, nobody can predict the fact that Babylon is going to rise to power. So somebody from Babylon's time had to have written it. So who, we don't know, but it clearly was from that exilic perspective. Somebody from the time of Babylon must have written that second section from 40 on. And then, of course, once you open that door and start saying, okay, there's not one Isaiah by two, well, maybe there's more than two, right? And so now there's this third section from 56 to 66, which deals the return, and some scholars began to say, well, maybe there's three Isaiahs, because the third Isaiah probably wrote after they came back from captivity and they're back in Palestine again. And so the modern critical theories began to think in terms of 2 or 3 Isaiahs, and then of course you had 4, 5, 6, many, who knows how many, right? And so that's kind of how the scholarship began to develop in that period. And more recently what has happened is a kind of a move in the direction and saying, no, you know what? There's probably all kinds of different sources. We really don't have any idea how many. But if you look at the story of Isaiah, it really is kind of one story. I mean, you can see how there's one story woven through the whole book. So what we may have here is a bunch of sources just put together very, very clever editors, sometimes after the Babylonians returned, or the Jewish people returned to Palestine from Babylon. And so one of the current theories is we're not dealing with 2 or 3 Isaiahs, we're dealing with many Isaiahs that a later redactor put together after they returned from captivity. So there's variations of a theme, obviously, in all these perspectives. I only point them out to let you know that you should feel confident that you as an evangelical, if you believe in one, and not just evangelical, there are other conservatives that would hold to this Catholic tradition, conservative Jewish tradition, so forth. Anybody who believes that Isaiah wrote the whole book, congratulations, you're a tiny minority among scholarship. The majority of scholarship has ran off in these other directions. In fact, it was interesting. I had a dear friend that went through Bible college with me, and then he went on to seminary, and we went different ways, and every once in a while we'd touch base. And I went to a seminary or a graduate school that had a mainline seminary attached to it that had kind of lost track of its evangelical roots. And one of his standard questions to test me was, how many Isaiahs were there? And he knew by my answer whether I had left the path or was still on the path. So that was my test question, which I'm thankful to say, to this point at least, I've remained faithful. I see only one. Now, obviously, the real reason for the division into these different sections is this bias, this anti-supernatural bias, the belief that you can't prophesy 100 years in advance what's going to happen. But obviously, once you start digging for sources and you start saying, well, if that's the case, then what are we really dealing with? What you end up with is a scholarship that kind of says, well, if you really look at it, here's kind of some reasons why we think there may have been multiple sources here. And so I just want to, again, give you a little substance behind this and talk a little bit about why these folks have come to this conclusion and maybe some responses to that. So let me work through those a little bit. Are there really different historical perspectives? Well, I mean, just obviously there's a rejection of this ability to predict events. So that's just a given. That's a straightforward. And I'll have something to say about that here. In fact, let me point out, actually, let me pause here. In your notes here, let me jump into this a little bit now, because I need to say something about this prediction and why it's such a critical part of prophecy. And I don't know, when I was growing up, I kind of got this assumption that prophecy, that's what it was. It was telling the future. So all prophets told the future. And then you kind of go through school and you realize, well, there's probably more to that, until in the critical world, the one thing prophets don't do is predict the future. So you kind of have to figure out what's going on here. And so let me just say a couple words about that before I continue, because I think it's important. I just kind of get us started. I quoted this one text from Isaiah 46, and there are some other texts there that you can look up. But this one, remember this, fix it in mind, take it to heart, you rebels, remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God. So it's first past, right? Remember, look back. I am God, there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times and what is to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. The reason for the prophetic, the future-telling aspect of God is not some sort of parlor trick. He's trying to make a point. And it's not just the future. There's an equal emphasis of the past. Remember our first lesson, I talked to you about how, thousands of years of history, God was spelling out a story in the Old Testament. It means something. Why? Because He's saying, remember back the past, all those times where God delivered them from all their enemies, one generation after another, one group of stories after another of salvation and rescue. Look back and remember those. But just in case you have a doubt about the past, let me say something about the future. Watch this. I will do this. And then He lists precisely what it will do. And then you watch it happen. The point He's trying to make, listen, do not veer from what I'm trying to say. That seems to be the summary of what He's trying to talk about here. I am God. He says it twice in this one text. Why do you keep chasing other gods is the question that seems to be asked. Why do you keep looking for another answer? Why do you keep asking as if somehow you can find something else to follow? I am God. And so with that piece laid on the line, why do you keep chasing after all this other stuff as if that's going to help you? It's stupid. Look at the past. Has it ever worked for any kingdom in the past that stood up to what I wanted to do? Just look it out. Check it out. Has any kingdom stood up? When I set my mind on doing something, that's a summary of what He's saying. When He purposed to do something, That's going to happen. I don't care who the king is, and I don't care who the nation is. That's going to happen. So, just the same thing happens now. When I say something's going to happen, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter who the king is. And so that's the reason for the predictive element. It's to make a point. It's to demonstrate his sovereignty. Well, one of the things that we have not lived through that. So, you would think, listen, just in your experiences, some of you could talk about, this is how God saved me in the past, and I wish he would tell me what's going on in the future, and we wonder why that doesn't happen. If you would just do this for me, then I will believe. I beg to differ. It never worked in the past when he did that, because then we want to see one more trick and one more trick, because the point is, we don't really believe who he is. We want him to do what he wants us to do. And the whole piece of this, if you read through the book, and this is why I urge you to read through it in one sitting, you can't come away from that book without this burning message inside of you that says, look at all this stuff going hither and yon, and all these different attempts to live life some other way than what he laid out for us to live. Look at all these attempts to earn wealth that are not righteous. Look at all these lifestyles that are not lined up. What is the problem? Doesn't anybody see that if you do that, it doesn't work? Live this way. And when you live this way, you get blessing. That's the way I designed it. You live righteously, you follow me, you worship, and everything works. But somehow in our head, we don't want to do that. We want to do it our way. And guess what? It always ends up in the gutter somewhere. And he's saying, listen, I don't understand. And that's the message of Isaiah over and over again. And man, I'm telling you, the more I read that, I'm like, what is wrong with me? I get into this space of, I'm like, listen, this is a sovereign God of the universe. This is the way it works. Why is it so hard to understand? Follow me and it works out. And that's you hear, if you read through that text, you hear the frustration in God's voice. It's like he doesn't get it. And so that's the reason for the predictive events. It's not that he's just has this need to tell us what's going to happen. He's not putting all these details down so that people can spend hours and hours and hours predicting when Jesus is coming back. That's not the point. The point is not to give us some secret knowledge about the future. The point is to reveal the fact that, listen, he's the sovereign God. What he says goes. And you can live that way or you can pretend it's not true, but it doesn't change anything. What he says goes. And that's the point. That's why those predictive elements are in prophecy. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. Prophecy it's this exhortation, it's this telling of the Spirit and truth of God, inspired by the voice of God to get this message across. And sometimes, if necessary, it will predict the future. But it's never a parlor trick, it's always for a point. So anyway, I digress. Anyway, back to the point. So obviously in these critical moments, there's this rejection of the prophetic. The other piece is there may be different historical perspectives from before, during, and after. So, as we pointed out, we acknowledge that the first part is all about the struggles between the southern and the northern kingdom. The second part is about this exile in Babylon, and the third part is the return to Palestine. But what I wanted to push back a little bit is to say that that's kind of not true entirely for various reasons. There are many, many reasons for a single perspective. You look, for example, this theme of the Holy One of Israel. It occurs over and over again, and I point to the text here in Isaiah 43. This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. For your sake I will send to Babylon and bring down as fugitives all the Babylonians and all the ships in which they took pride. So that's from the second section, and there's the Holy One of Israel. That theme is in there. But notice that the perspective is still as if Judah is still there. in Judah. The perspective is that Babylon is a distant place. Look, this is what the Lord said, "For your sake I will send to Babylon," as if it's not there. So the perspective is not from Babylon as if you're sitting in Babylon. The perspective is you're somewhere else and he will send to. And this is from the second section of Isaiah. Here's another one. "From the east I will summon a bird of prey, from a far-off land to a man to fulfill my purpose, what I have said. That I will bring about, what I have planned." So again, not from as if they were in Babylon, it's from as if they were in Judah. So again, these even though it's in the second section, there seems to be a geographic perspective from Judah, even though it's a reference to Babylon. The other argument that I would point to is that there seems to be an intimate knowledge of Palestinian kind of culture and geography that you see throughout the book of Isaiah, not just in the front section, but in the second section. And so you have references like I just quoted here in the text from the second section, supposedly. He says, "I will put in the desert the cedar and the acacia, the myrtle and the olive. I will set pines in the wasteland, the fir and the cypress together." All these references of trees that are local to Palestine. And again, not conclusive, but kind of among other things, you list these all out and you begin to see, listen, these people in Babylon, if they're really writing for Babylon, they have a very intimate knowledge of Palestinian culture, geography. It's very interesting that they should be so concise about all these different aspects of culture. And yet, at the same time, if you look in Babylon for Babylonian-specific culture, apart from references to idolatry or just big picture things like that, there's nothing like this about Babylon in the second section. It's not talking intimately about the geography and about the culture of the lives of the people there. In fact, when it references this stuff, it always goes back and uses cultural connotations from Judah. So, again, this argument that they're always speaking from another geographical perspective, I think it can be challenged legitimately by looking at some of those texts. So I would push back on that. Secondly, let me look at this, the different, let's see, I said historical perspectives. I think your notes may be switched here. I think you have different theological emphases in front of, just switch slide 12 and slide 13 in your notes. I'm going to talk about slide 13 and then I'll come back and talk about slide 12. For whatever reason, I got the order messed up. One of the other arguments in why there's two Isaiahs or more, it has to do with linguistic styles. There's two different linguistic styles. Well, let's examine that a little bit. For example, they say if you look in the first section, there's different prose, there's stories, there's some narrative in there in the first 39 chapters. You can find stories about Isaiah and events of the day. But you don't see any of that in Isaiah's 40 to 66. There's no historical prose. And so the critics will say, look, well, this kind of points to two different authors. There's stories in the first 39 chapters, not totally. I mean, there's lots of prophecy and poems and everything else in the first 39 chapters. But there is some prose, some stories, but none in the second section there of 40 to 66. So maybe that indicates different authors. Also, a difference in 1 to 39, Jerusalem and Judah mentioned frequently together. You know, they're kind of reflecting always it's about Judah and Jerusalem, because Isaiah is talking about the challenge that they have up against these other nations. But they only really occur once together in that same formula in the second part. Now, there are many references to Jerusalem, and there are references to Judah, but they don't really occur together in this same linguistic formula. So maybe that indicates a separate language. Thirdly, there are phrases that are in the second part, for example, 40 to 66, in 40 to 66 that you don't see in quite the same way in the first part. So in chapters 40 to 66, you see the suffering servant phrase used 19 times, but not at all in the first section. And God as Father, just kind of viewed as the Father, 6 times in the second section. But again, not really in that terms or in that exact phrase do you find it in the first 39 chapters. So maybe that, they say, argues for 2 different authors. And conversely, you have kind of a comparison between the two. Maybe there's phrases used predominantly in the other, but not so often in the other. One section, but not so often in the other. So, for example, this term God of hosts, 56 times in chapters 1 to 39, only 6 times in 40 to 66. The Spirit of God, 1 time in chapters 1 to 39, 20 times in 40 to 66. And then the other difference, stylistic difference, they say, as we've kind of always intimated, but let me kind of put it in a different phrase or a different turn. There are many historical and geographical cultural references in 1 to 39. We looked at a couple of them, but very few, with this one singular exception of this reference to Cyrus in the second section. So all these things, critics will look at and say, you know what, look at all these things. Doesn't it seem to suggest that maybe a different group of folks wrote the second section than wrote the first section? Isn't there differences there? I just wanted you to see that there's some thought has gone into this. They just didn't, have a bad night and dream it. I mean, they have done some statistical kind of look at that. And looking at statistical analysis, various folks over the years, and I mentioned the 2 kind of best known ones, have gone through and they've written computer programs to analyze the Hebrew and say how many times are these words used and what are the conclusions and the logic built into that. And a couple of them have come back and proved that based upon computer statistical analysis, in fact, 2 writers have in fact written the separate books. But as a former computer programmer, I can tell you what the computer says has a lot to do with what you tell it to say. In fact, sometimes I joke with my wife that I kind of miss the days as a computer programmer because it's very interesting. If you write code in a particular way, every time you execute it, it does the exact same thing. It doesn't seem to work that way too much with staff or parishioners. Somehow the words you say sometimes have little relevance to what comes out the other side. I'm just saying. But in programming, when I go home sometimes she'll say, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm programming." She said, "Why? That sounds boring." I said, "No, for me, strangely enough, it's a very satisfying experience. I can't really explain it." But anyway, I will tell you that programming has some assumptions built into it. And I give you an example of one person out there who, strangely enough, a Mormon scholar, and there's a whole, again, if you kind of follow this stuff, there's a whole debate in the Mormon community about Isaiah 2, which I won't get into. But he did a statistical analysis which, in his opinion, proved that there was one Isaiah. And he's actually been in contact supposedly with these other folks and did that. And oftentimes he said he took that same program that was some of these other scholars did, and he proved conclusively on that program that Thomas Carlyle did not write text that he said he wrote. So that same logic wouldn't apply to even modern authors. So his point is the logic is faulty, it's not conclusive, and I only point this out to you because, again, if you're in conversation, you're out on the internet, and they say the computers prove a lot of stuff, but they don't prove anything. It depends on the program that's launched. So I just wanted you to be aware that that argument is sometimes thrown out there. And the other thing I wanted to point out to you is that despite all the distinctions, there are some similarities that we should keep in mind. This term, the Holy One of Israel, you'll see that over and over throughout the whole, if you read this text from beginning to end, it's kind of a distinctive Isaiah kind of way of putting things. He uses it as one of his favorite phrases to describe God, the Holy One of Israel. And in this sense, it's not just the northern kingdom, it's the whole people of God. Israel, you remember from our sermon this week, was the name given to Jacob. It's of all the 12 tribes. That's how it started. But it's used in both sections, 12 times in 1 to 39 and 14 times in 40 to 66, and only 7 times in the whole rest of the Old Testament. So there's a case of similarity in style. If you're going to list all these reasons in style to say, well, it's different authors, here's a list of reasons to say maybe it's the same. All right? So I gave you one example. Another one in there, which I don't see in my notes here, but another one that's really important is the highway analogy. This highway that God is going to build. This is an exciting story that runs the whole way through Isaiah. It's one of those threads through the tapestry that God is going to build this highway. Okay, everybody get excited because you think you're going to hear prophecy here, but it's not true in the sense that you might think. There's going to be these roads, and this whole point is watch out, because when I act, when I restore my kingdom, all the nations are going to be the path to my door. There's going to be highways of coming to my door. When I finally do reveal myself, and again, I don't mean to speak for God, there's a summary of his prophecies. What he seems to be saying is that when he finally executes his will, all the nations are going to be the path to the door of his people. He will vindicate his people. It's not that way now. All the highways seem to be going out of town. They're getting conquered and taken captive. But there's another day coming when all the highways will be inbound, because everybody will want to come to see the God who has blessed the people. Interesting theological theme going through that. So that's another theme that's found throughout both sections. Different theological emphases. Some people argue God's majesty. In the first part, you see all these exhortations and oracles against all the different nations, and the emphasis is about how God is going to redeem Israel and conquer all these other places and pronounce judgment on all these other nations. That seems to be a strong phrase. But then when you get into the second section, you see more of the messianic twist. Not that it's missing in the first place, but you see the suffering servant, this idea of restoration, this idea of calling back, kind of a God that's not really a tribal God in charge of Israel, but so much of a more of a universal God that's there to heal the whole human race. You see maybe a differing view of God as Messiah the King or versus the suffering servant. And I guess my point with regard to all of that is, these are pretty subjective arguments, because as I read through this text, these themes are really in both sections. I mean, it's really hard to say it's in this but not in the other. It's pretty subjective. And so the final conclusion that I would just want to point out here as we move towards the end and towards question time is that, and this is just my amateurish kind of opinion, but when you start, if you take out the predictive bias, the anti-supernatural bias, and you just set that aside and say, just for the point of argument, let's say that if God wanted to, he could actually predict the future, and not only predict it, tell other people what was going to happen. Let's just grant me for sake of argument that could happen. Do all these other distinctions in and of themselves justify a separate source? It's hard for me to really see that as being true. There are not different enough perspectives that the preponderance of the evidence would say to me, yep, there's probably separate authors, or the differences in style are sufficient to do that, or the differences in theology are different to do that. They're subjective in their nature, and the only thing that really makes them convincing if you add it to the assumption that there's no predictive prophecy allowed. But if you accept that as a precondition, then yeah, all these other arguments can line up behind that and help support that. But it seems to me that at the end of the day, the final proof of whether there's one Isaiah or many really depends upon your ability to hold on and believe that God really says and predicts the future. Before we go to question time, I did want to end on a more of a reflective note. And I wanted to pick a passage from the first section, actually. And I just wanted you to kind of maybe even close your eyes and meditate and think about it, to kind of counteract all this thinking about one is different than the other and one section is different than the other. I mean, I read it, and on the whole, I guess I can understand it maybe on the tree level, but on the forest level, it's one story. And so let me read a passage from the front section, which is to me a very universal, a very global, a very hopeful chapter. And I purposely picked a rather long chapter because I want you to hear the flow. One of the things I was afraid of is talking about Isaiah is like all my words crowding out what are perhaps the most beautiful words of Scripture sometimes. And I don't want the last words that you hear about Isaiah to be my words, because that would be cheapening the whole experience. So I want you to hear the last words about Isaiah, the words that are in the text themselves. So if you would indulge me for a moment, let me close with what I think is one of the most powerful statements in Scripture. O Lord, you are my God. I will exalt you and praise your name. For in perfect faithfulness you have done marvelous things, things planned long ago. You have made the city a heap of rubble, the fortified town a ruin, the foreign a stronghold, a city no more. It will never be rebuilt. Therefore strong peoples will honor you. Cities of ruthless nations will revere you. You have been a refuge for the poor, a refuge for the needy in his distress, a shelter from the storm and a shade from the heat. For the breath of the ruthless is like a storm driving against a wall, and like the heat of the desert. Your silence the uproar of foreigners as heat is reduced by the shadow of a cloud, and the song of the ruthless is stilled. On this mountain the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet of aged wine, the best of meats and the finest of wines. On this mountain he will destroy the shroud that enfolds all peoples, the sheet that covers all nations. He will swallow up death forever. The sovereign Lord will wipe away the fears from all faces, the tears from all faces. He will remove the disgrace of his people from all the earth. The Lord has spoken. In that day they will say, surely this is our God. We trusted in him and he saved us. This is the Lord. We trusted in him. Let us rejoice and be glad in his salvation. The hand of the Lord will rest on this mountain, but Moab will be trampled unto him, as straw is trampled down in manure. They will spread out their hands in it, as a swimmer spreads out his hands to swim. God will bring down their pride, despite the cleverness of their hands. He will bring down your high fortified walls and lay them low. He will bring them down to the ground, to the very dust. Whom will God save, the proud or the humble that follows in the righteous steps of his way? It's the question I ask myself reading a text like that. Can we close in prayer before we go to questions? Father, the message of your prophet is powerful. It does not escape those of us who every day need to make decisions about who we will serve. Every day we have to make decisions about values and what will be the basis of our decisions. What God will we follow? What prophet will we listen to? And then we hear noble, excellent words like this, and we say to ourselves, why do we bother listening to anybody else's prescription for life? There's only one source for truth and life and hope and assurance and comfort and peace. The text from elsewhere in Isaiah comes to mind. You will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you. So, Father, tie us to your rock that we will not move. Thank you for this message. Thank you for your Son who makes all of this clear and makes it true in our lives. And we pray this in the name of Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.